Hello, so welcome to your wellbeing program with Being Well. I'm James and I'm the sleep geek, a man in glasses who knows a lot about sleep, and I want to introduce you to what we're going to be doing. Now I know you're sat there thinking, not another wellbeing initiative. What's this chubby, specky, four-eyed fella going to tell me about living a better life? Because we've all been there, we've all sat in those rooms and listened to someone drone on about how to be a better person. But what we've created is something that actually works for you and your family. We want to help you understand yourselves better in terms of your well-being. We also want to give you tips, tools and advice on how to improve your well-being day after day after day. This isn't going to be Buff Brian taking you through an exercise class that nearly kills you. This is not going to be Peaceful Pam doing a yoga session at lunchtime. It's not going to be Mindful Marvin helping you learn how to relax better. There's going to be no juice bikes, there's going to be no walking challenges, there's going to be no Fruit Wednesdays where someone in the office takes home about 3 tons of fruit because nobody else is eating it. This is designed for everyone. It's about making everyone's lives a little bit better. It's not for the people in the office already doing exercise, it's not for the people in the office already doing mindfulness or doing yoga. It's about giving you something that actually adds to your lives and gives you something extra. So how did you sleep last night? Probably a silly question, isn't it? Because why would you be watching this webinar? So some house rules before I start. Whilst watching this webinar, you are allowed to yawn. There is nothing more sleep inducing than a man in glasses saying sleep over and over again. If you wish to have a little nap, I will not be offended. I can't see you, but you will miss some good stuff. It happens to me quite a lot. One of my favourite stories of someone falling asleep when I was giving a presentation was a lady fell asleep on the front row and just fell forward and smashed her face a little bit. So hopefully that won't happen to you, but if it does, maybe get a pillow ready just in case you're going to fall over off your chair. So what is today about? It's about understanding what changes you need to make to your behaviours, your mindset and your sleep environment to get better sleep. But most of all, it's about understanding your sleep better. One of the most common questions I get around sleep is, James, I want to sleep through the night. I think this shows the lack of understanding we have of sleep because nobody sleeps through the night. We all wake up 3 to 6 times a night. We come out of sleep cycle to make sure that we are safe. Our body's checking to ensure that we are secure. So a good sleeper will come out of that sleep cycle, turn over and go back to sleep. A poor sleeper will come out of that sleep cycle, turn over and start thinking about work, kids, relationships. There's embarrassing things that we do in our lives. Failure, basically. That is the difference between a good sleeper and a poor sleeper. But I would suggest that actually the good sleepers are the ones who are the anomalies. Poor sleepers are the way we should be. It is normal for our bodies to come out of that sleep cycle. It's part of our protection system from when we had predators. So we come out of that sleep cycle to check to make sure that we are safe. So in theory, it's actually the good sleepers who are the genetic anomalies. Their ancestors should have been eaten millennia ago by a saber-toothed tiger. Their ancestors probably had a friend who was a poor sleeper who woke them up when the saber-toothed tiger came into town, gave them a nudge and they ran up a tree. The point of that story is to actually say what you maybe think is poor sleep is the way you're supposed to be. And by understanding this, we can start the process of making our sleep better. So who am I? I'm James Wilson, the sleep geek, a man in glasses who knows a lot about sleep. And why should I be helping you to sleep better? Well, I'm a poor sleeper myself. My poor sleep manifests itself mostly in my teenage years. I was getting 2-3 hours a night, night after night after night. I'd go sort of maybe 2-3 weeks of doing that, have a massive crash, maybe have a 16-hour sleep, and then something stressful would happen and I would start again. Now, I sleep a lot better now, but there is no cure. And if someone is telling you they have cured their sleep issues, maybe with their magic 30-day program, or their 7-day program, or their 21-day program, lots of programs in sleep, they are not telling you the truth. They're probably telling you a little fib. Because there's no cure for this. Sleep is like in mental health. You understand yourself better and you make changes that allow you to get better sleep. But you're not going to go through a process where you never have sleep issues. You might have a bereavement that will impact on your sleep. You might go through a divorce that will impact on your sleep. You'll have kids that will impact on your sleep. That is the way we are designed as humans. We can learn to sleep better, but we can't cure it. But for me, there's actually a paradox at the heart of my poor sleep. My family made beds and mattresses. Would you trust a man who who can't sleep to sell you a mattress. No was often the answer. And I couldn't talk about it, and I was quite ashamed of it in many ways. But in my mid-20s, I decided to do something about it. I initially trained with the Children's Sleep Charity. I worked with families whose children didn't sleep well. I also led the largest teen sleep project in the UK at the time, supporting teenagers to get better sleep. I learnt loads during that process, mostly about not having a prescriptive approach, and also that teenagers do lie. I then did some additional adult training and decided to start working with organisations like yourself. I've worked with people like Coca-Cola, Red Bull. The irony of working with those two brands and being a sleep expert is not lost on me. I've worked with Zurich Insurance, Pret a Manger, DFDS. I've also worked with governments. I've worked with the Isle of Man government and the UAE government. I'm lucky enough to do lots of work in sport as well. I'm actually based at the English Institute of Sport, and I've worked extensively in team sports, mostly football. A number of years ago, I led the first ever measured sleep intervention for football with Sheffield Hallam University. We were working with Rotherham United, and when I started working with them, they were 13th in League One. And at the end of that season, they got promoted at Wembley, and that was all down to me. I've worked with Lincoln City in their promotion season from League Two to League One, me again, and also Sheffield United when they got promoted from the Championship to the Premiership. Me. Now, Rotherham got relegated in one of the seasons I worked with them. That quite clearly wasn't down to me. That must have been something about the team or something like that. I work extensively in the media. You might have seen me on BBC Breakfast talking about sleep. I did a TV programme on Channel 4 called The Secrets of Sleep. 12 of Britain's worst sleepers and 4 of Britain's top sleep experts, and we got them sleeping better. It might still be on 4OD if you want to give it a view. And I achieved one of my lifetime's ambitions. I got to go on This Morning. I've worked with Holly and Phil, I've worked with Eamon and Ruth, and it was as good as I'm sure you can imagine. You might hear me extensively across the BBC radio network and writing in newspapers and magazines, things like Time Magazine, Forbes, The Times, The Telegraph, The Mail, The Sun, The Star, all titles you can think of. So hopefully this will give you some reassurance as to why I'm the person who can help you sleep better. So we're now going to take you through some of the science of sleep and introduce some ideas around the sleep truths. These are things we can't argue with. These are things that are happening in your body. When you understand these, you can start to understand how to make your sleep better. So as it says in the tin, drop in heart rate, drop in core temperature. Really important, you need to remember this, because this is what needs to be happening before you go to sleep. It's the physiological process our body goes through before we go to sleep. And it makes sense if you think about it. If we are producing adrenaline and cortisol, if we are stressed, if we're in fight or flight mode, we don't want to feel sleepy. Because as an animal, and we're going to talk about saber-toothed tigers again, as an animal, if we're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, if we're in fight or flight mode, if we're producing adrenaline and cortisol, we don't want to feel sleepy. So our body won't produce melatonin, the hormone that helps us sleep, if we are stressed and anxious. So if we get ourselves in a condition where we are relaxed, where we are dropping our heart rate, where we are cooler, we are dropping our core temperature, we are getting ourselves in a position where we are ready for sleep. So the next sleep truth, you cannot force yourself to sleep. One of my earliest memories is my dad coming in the room, I'm wide awake, and him saying to me, "James, will you just try and go to sleep?" And me trying, desperately squeezing my eyes closed, willing myself to sleep. Can't do it, Dad. We've all tried to force ourselves to sleep. Even if you're a good sleeper, there's a time in your life where you've tried to force yourself to sleep. When we've got an early flight, maybe 4 o'clock, get up to get that flight. And we go to bed earlier, because that works, and we lay there, tossing and turning. You'll see 10, you'll see 11, you'll see 12. You'll taste that adrenaline at the back of your throat as you panic about the poor sleep you're having. You'll see 1, you'll see 2, you'll see 3. And maybe about 3:30, you think, well, it's fine, I'm getting up in. You fall asleep because your body's relaxed. You've created that drop in heart rate. And that half an hour sleep you have before your alarm goes off is the worst sleep imaginable. So there's those of you who are poor sleepers who wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you lay there tossing and turning, tossing and turning, tossing and turning. And about 5:30, when your alarm's due to go off at 6, you'll fall asleep as we just described. And that half an hour sleep will be the worst sleep you've ever had. So how do we solve this problem? How do we stop ourselves, wake up in the middle of the night and just laying awake and then falling asleep just before we're due to get up? Follow the 30-minute rule. This is really important in terms of the sleep tips, in terms of the advice I'm going to give you. This is one to remember, the 30-minute rule. So if you are in bed for 30 minutes and not asleep, whether this is as you go to bed or it's as you wake up in the middle of the night, you need to start again. You need to reset your mind. You need to stop worrying, thinking of all those thoughts of failure, of work, of kids, of relationships, of that embarrassing thing you did in a pub. So how do we do that? I like listening to something. Listen to something. Listen to a podcast. Listen to a spoken word book, particularly if it's a book you've already read. Listen to a meditation app like Headspace or Calm. Listen to the radio. Listen to music of less than 60 beats per minute. Let your mind wander. Let that sort of sleepiness feeling come and drop off back to sleep. Now, if you sleep alone, or you sleep next to someone who doesn't annoy you, you can do this in bed. Just pop your earphones in and listen to something. If you sleep next to someone and them laying next to you, snoring away, annoys you, makes you go, I'm gonna kill you, then you need to get away from them because they are raising your heart rate. So it might be a good idea to go into another room, keep the lights down low and do your listening there. And when that sleepiness comes again, go back to bed and fall back to sleep. Because this really does work. And as I said, if you're going to do anything, this might be the one to pick. Because this is my problem. I wake up in the middle of the night and I do this. And actually now my body has learned, if I put my earphones in, it relaxes and I can fall asleep. I don't even have to listen to something. At times, I can actually think about listening to something and I'll fall back to sleep. It's creating a really strong, healthy behavioural cue for your body to say, let's start relaxing. Let's start going back to sleep.